Hello, it's Jill and welcome to my channel, My Craft. Today I'm going to be making this beautiful card using the Tree of Dreams from Lavinia Stamps. So let's get started. So to start with, I'm going to be doing my background on the gel press. So I'm going to be using Distress and Salty Ocean and the Elements in Pine. So I'm going to start with the Salty Ocean. There's a nice lot of ink on there, but I don't want it quite at the start. So what I'm going to do is just take some off quickly and then just quickly come in on that top third. Okay, and just going to come back in with the pine. You noticed I haven't washed the brayer. That's okay because you've still got blue in this, in a green, whereas if you did it the other way around, you're probably going to get green in your sky. So anyway, just take some of that off and then quickly run that across there. So that's good for that. I've got my brushos as well. So I'm going to come in with some yellow. Sorry, I've knocked you again. A tiny little bit of yellow on the bottom. Tiny little bit off of there, and then just give it a few little gentle bits of that. Just going to clean the brush and come back in with some emerald green. Again, I'm just taking the big splots off. Gently, gently. Tiny little bit of green around the edges there. Clean the brush. And then I thought I'd try a little bit of violet in the sky there. Again, take majority of that off by just flicking it off onto your scrap piece there. And get you a little bit of, a few little splats in the sky there. Okay, that's great. Let's see if we can come in and see what we get from this. And I'm using the multifarious card. Just pop that down there. Such great fun using these gel press. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's going to be beautiful. Right, so I'll come back to you when that's all dried off and we'll make a start stamping. So that's our background done. Looks lovely with all these little bits here, look like little trees and things, so that's fabulous. Now I'm going to stamp using the beautiful dog. So I've just put that into my stamping platform. Let's just pop the card in there. And I'm going to use the pine cone VersaFine Clair. So just ink that up. It should go in one stamp, this, but we'll see. There may be a tiny bit that doesn't print. That's why I've put it into the stamping platform. And just give it a bit of a press. Yeah, brilliant. Done in one go. How beautiful is that? So, right. That more or less dries instantly. So what I'm going to do now is start colouring the tree bark. So I've got my pencils, my watercolour pencils in golden brown and copper beech. And I'm just going to do a tiny little bit of colouring in here. So use the lighter colour in the more open spaces. Again, the stamp is designed for you to do that. It's giving you instruction in where to put the lighter colour and the darker colours. So don't be too particular because we're going to watercolour it in a minute. These lovely green bits down the bottom, fabulous, look like moss. And then we'll come in with the darker colour. Right, I'm just going to activate that with a little bit of water. If I can find my brush, there it is. Again, we just want the tiniest amount, so I'm just going to take the excess water off, and then we can just activate that colour. Right, so once I've done that, I'm just going to come back in with a little bit more colour so that we can add just a little tiny bit more depth. You can see that's just adding that depth of colour there. So there we go, that's finished. I'm not going to water colour that. I'm just going to leave it now and let the colours stay as they are. So I'm just going to ground the tree now, save it sort of flying in the air. And to do that, I'm just going to rip a little bit of paper here until I've made a little mask of some shape. I've got some of the plasticky ones, but they're nothing really in the shape that I wanted. So I thought I would just go with a bit of torn paper today. I'm going to use the Olympia green to do that, and a tiny little bit of sponge. Let's just decide where we're going to go with that. Something like that, I think. Very gently just start on the paper and pull it down. And let's move that way. There. That's given that a bit of grounding. Maybe a tiny bit more over here. Great. Okay, so I'm going to stamp some bits in the foreground, and I'm going to go with the fairy buttercups. Just get a little block. And also I'm going with the slender mushrooms, which I'm going to stamp a few over here. So I might stamp these first. Take a little bit of paper here because I'm going to do some stamping off. I'm going to come in the pine cone. Because that's quite a dark colour here. So I'm just going to stamp off and come in with the second impression there. That's better. And again, I think. Yes, lovely. For the buttercups, I'm going to come in with the Olympia green. Just going to put a bit of paper under that because I'm going to be stamping off again onto the edge of the worksheet otherwise. There we go. Lovely. And a few more. Maybe a few just over here. Great, I've got a lovely little scene going on there. I'm going to hang on to that green again because I'm now going to do the tree. And for the tree, I'm going to use the mini stamp one, the leaf stamp. No, I'm not going to use this colour green. Change of plan. I think I'm going to use the pine. Okay, let's go with that one. slightly different shade of green. So that's going to be quite dark against there. So what I'm going to do is stamp off and then come in. Yeah, better. Yes, I've got a big mark there. Let's just cover it over. These things happen. So going a little bit of ink on the bottom of the stamp here. Let's just clean that off. Yeah, so that's the leaves done. And I rather fancied today, I think I might put a little tree hive in there. And what colour should we go with that? Probably come back to the pine cone, I think. Let's do a few of those. There we are. That's how we're looking so far. Just do a bit of a clear up. We can move on to the next step. So I've got my little image, it's all dry, it's all ready to go. And now what I want to do is add a little bit of colour onto it. And I'm going to do that by using some acrylic paints. But before I do that, because I've used a dye ink for the leaves, I need to seal it. If you've used some of the more permanent inks like a StazOn or the VersaFine Clairs, then you probably won't need to do this. So I'm just going to seal mine with a bit of Distress Glaze. And what this will do, it'll seal it and it will stop the colour from bleeding into the paints that I'm going to use, because I'm going to do some lovely, where are we, cherry blossoms. Just because it's spring here in the UK and everything's looking lovely and fresh and pretty, and I thought, you know, that'd be really nice to do a little card like that. So here we go. Just, you don't need massive amounts, you just need to spread that round. And it just puts that lovely little layer onto it. Tiny bit down there. There we go. I think we're okay with that. So I've got three colours here. I've got blank, white, obviously iris and wild violet. So I'm just going to shake them up a bit, and I'm going to put a tiny little bit down here on my work mat. Come on, there you go. Oh, that doesn't want to play ball. Let's just put a tiny bit of this violet down. Oops, that was rather a lot. Right, so for this one, I'm just going to take some out with a brush. Made it. There we go. Right, let's dry that off a bit. Let's get a little mat in there. Cloth. There we go. Sorry to put you through this, everyone. But there we go. We're done. Right. So I'm going to start with some white. I'm just going to dot all over. Right, so we've got a nice little foundation going on there. Let's bring in a tiny bit of this darker purple. Right, I'm just going to pop a few little bits down here, a few little bits coming off of the tree, and usually you have a little pile of them underneath, don't you? So we'll just do a few little there, a few little bits and bobs coming down from here. Yeah. So obviously you can put in as much or as little of this as you like. But I think that does us really nicely there. And then obviously we need to leave that to dry. So I'm going to come down here now onto the buttercups. I'm going to do some lovely bright yellow on the buttercups. Let's just, oh, there we go. Definitely more than is needed. But there we go. Right. So these little ones are just like a little V shape. And I've tried using the Posca pens for this, and it just doesn't have any sort of depth of colour. It bleeds through. So I just thought I'd go with a bit of acrylic paint just to finish it off. There we are, so that's looking quite good now. And then what I need to do, really, leave it to dry. Don't be tempted to start doing other things until your paint's dried off now. Otherwise you could end up just smudging it all in. It looks like a right mess then. So that's what I'm going to do. And I will join you in a little bit and we can finish off the card then. So everything's all dried off now. Paint's all lovely and dry. So I'm just going to do all the finishing touches. So first off, I'm going to go around the edges with a pro marker, and I've got, what have I got here? I think it's meadow green. So I'm just going to get my little ruler straightened up and go around the edge with that. I wanted to keep this relatively nice and fresh, so I didn't want to do the ink around the edges. I just felt it needed a little border. Oops, stuck. Let's try again. There we go, so that's that done. Then I'm going to do the little bits around the tree in a white. I use the Uniball Signo. I always tend to get better results with that than anything else. So I'm just going to do these little bits that go round. You won't see a lot of difference, but it will just brighten it up slightly. Just to finish it off. And as we move down the tree, you can see it's picking up the ink from underneath, which is fab, because that's more realistic than bright white. Just make sure that's running okay. Yeah, it's still running okay. As I said, it's not a major difference, but it's just a, as I said, finishing off touch. Right, so I've done that. I'm going to come in with a jelly roll. This, I don't know what colour this one is, some sort of yellow. And I'm just going to do some little bits around the edge here, some little dots of little tiny flowers. Again, it's not a lot of difference, but it is a finishing off touch. There. It looks really pretty. And then on the tree itself, I'm going to do some glitter. So I've got some glamour dust here and some quickie glue and the quickie glue pen. I'm just going to quickly pop through and do some bits and bobs on here. It's always your little finishing off touches that make the card pop. These little quickie glue pens are great. There's a lot of tree to do, so just bear with me a moment. I just like to take a little brush and just brush off the excess. There, how pretty is that? Look, I don't know if you can see the glitter on there. I think it's just about picking it up. And the little dots at the bottom there. As I said, it just about finishes it off. I'm going to mount it onto a large card. So I've got an 8x8 envelope, and this is cut down to fit in that. So that's sort of like about 7 3/4, something like that. And I just want to do a little something in the background. So I'm just going to do a little bit of stenciling. And I've got the Glory stencil here. And I'm just going to do a little bit around the edges. Let's just put that there. I've got the Olive Elements ink. So let's take our little picture out of the way for the moment. I'm just going to pick out some pieces. So let's go here. I'm not going to do the whole lot. As I said, just pick out a few leaves. That's pretty. And a few more down the bottom. I'm going to go with the same again, I think. That just sort of finishes the corner off down there. And again, I'm just going to put a bit down this edge here. So I'm just going to pick this edge out, I think. Yes, that looks good. Let's get that right onto the edge of the card. It's a really pretty stencil, this one. Excellent. Right, and all I'm going to do now, once I've wiped the ink off my fingers, is just mount this onto there. So I've done my sticky tape. Make sure that glitter's gone. And I'm just going to pop it there, I think. There. And that's that beautiful card. And then all you need to do is just put a little sentiment down there. So I hope that's given you a little bit of inspiration. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye now.